GBNews Traffic and Travel Report.
This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. In Leeds, roadworks close an M1 northbound entry slip lane at junction 42. In Knowsley, all M62 westbound exit slip lanes at junction 6 are closed for emergency repairs. In Staffordshire, the M54 has one lane closed westbound between the M6 and junction 1 for horticultural works. Northamptonshire's M1 southbound between junctions 18 and 16 has 3 lanes closed. Emergency repairs on the M4 eastbound in Wiltshire are between junctions 17 and 16. In Wokingham, roadworks on the M4 westbound between junctions 10 and 11 have closed 3 lanes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Hello there, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Jubes and Co. And goodness gracious me, a turquoise tsunami has swept the nation. Absolutely staggering results for Reform UK, outperforming even the most optimistic predictions. Keir Starmer says that his losses show that Labour need to go further and faster. But prominent Labour MPs are saying that that is a tone-deaf response. Meanwhile, the Tories are pretty much nowhere to be seen. Ladies and gents, we have a lot to unpack together tonight. A Reform, the real opposition. Is this the end of two-party politics as we know it? And what on earth can Labour and the Tories do to turn things around tonight? An election 2025 special. Yes, indeed. And by the way, it would also be a little bit rude not to mention Prince Harry. There's been some very strange goings on there. I'll bring you that as well. Alongside me to do just that, the academic and pollster Matt Goodwin and the former Labour MP and Cabinet Minister Jeff Hume. But before we get stuck in, let's cross and give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Hi there, thank you very much indeed, Michelle. Let's get you up to date with the latest headlines. Prince Harry says he wants a reconciliation with the royal family, but claims his father won't speak to him. Harry made the comments in an interview with the BBC. It was broadcast after losing a Court of Appeal challenge over the level of security he faces in the UK. now. The Duke of Sussex says he feels it's impossible for him to bring his family back to the UK safely. He said the King won't speak to him because of this kind of security stuff, adding he doesn't want to fight anymore and doesn't know how much longer his father has.
Everybody knew that it was putting us at risk in 2020 and hoped that me knowing that risk would force us to come back. But then when you realise that that didn't work, do you not want to just keep us safe? Whether you're the government, whether you're the royal household, whether you're my dad, my family, despite all of our differences, do you not want to just ensure our safety? And I'm calling for, the Home Secretary and the government to do a review of RAVEC. And I'm also asking for an R&B assessment that I haven't received since 2019.
Much more on that to come as we go through the evening here on GB News. Now, Nigel Farage, the Reform UK leader, has claimed local elections have marked the beginning of the end of the Conservative Party. He was speaking after sweeping victories for Reform across England, in which they have gained control of a string of councils. They've secured their first and now second mayoral contests, and now they have their first female MP after Sarah Pochin won the Runcorn and Helsby by-election by 6 votes from Labour. And Mr Farage says the two-party system as we've known it for over a century has gone.
Two-party politics just died in front of our eyes. What happened here in County Durham and in Lancashire and in Runcorn and Helsby, really is, for the Labour Party, pretty cataclysmic. And what's happening to the Conservatives in the Shires is an apocalypse. I'm not even sure the Conservative Party can survive this in the long term. So, yeah, big day. And you know what? People vote for us because they want change. They are sick of the two-party system.
Now, a short time ago, Luke Campbell, a former boxer and Olympic medalist, won Reform's second mayoralty of the day. He has no political experience, but now he has the job in Hull and East Yorkshire. Earlier, Reform also won the Greater Lincolnshire mayoral race. And it's also taken full control of those county councils, a whole string of them, including Lancashire, Kent, Nottinghamshire, Durham, Staffordshire, Lincolnshire and Derbyshire. Not a great day then for Labour, but it did hold on to its mayoral seats in Doncaster, North Tyneside and the west of England, despite underwhelming polling. Reform came second in all 3 of those. The Conservatives, meanwhile, did win back Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, the mayoral contest from Labour. Votes in some cases still being counted. Labour and the Tory Conservatives bracing themselves for disappointing results. Sir Keir Starmer has said that the by-election defeat illustrates his party must do more. Finally, the King and Queen are to visit Canada for the first time since their coronation. They'll be there at the end of this month on the 26th and 27th of May. They'll attend the state opening of Parliament. Charles is Canada's head of state. He'll be going there less than a month after the former Bank of England Governor Mark Carney's Liberal Party won an historic election victory. There's your headlines. I'll be back with more in about an hour's time.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much for that. My name's Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes and Co, and we are with you until 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, I've got my panel, academic and pollster, Matt Goodwin. You're not just those two things. Oh, no, you're also the presenter of State of the Nation.
At 8 p.m, that's right. Come and join me. 8
p.m, so there you go. If you are not watching Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, quite frankly, you need to get a life. And I'll tell you who else we've got alongside him till 7 o'clock tonight. Former Labour MP and Cabinet Minister Jeff Hume. Welcome to you as well.
Good evening.
And also welcome to each and every single one of you at home. What's on your mind tonight, ladies and gents? Well, of course, we've got a lot to discuss when it comes to politics, haven't we? Goodness gracious me. What a day then it turns out yesterday indeed was. I also want to look at what on earth Prince Harry has been up to. Never a dull moment. Join the conversation in all the usual ways. Email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. Go to the website, gbnews.com. gbenews.com/your say. Or, of course, you can tweet or you can X me. I want to know your thoughts tonight. How do you feel about the election results that you have seen flying in? What happened in your local area? Many of you will be getting in touch saying, Michelle, chance would be a fine thing because the elections were actually blocked in my area. I hear you. But look, let's cross live then, shall we, to our political editor, Christopher Hope. Christopher, for anyone that's been doing anything else today other than following every twist and turn, give us the big headlines. What has occurred?
Today, I think an earthquake has taken place in British politics. We thought we had an earthquake when Labour won that majority last July, and we thought this today would be the aftershock when you saw Labour do a bit better, reforms wiped off the map locally because of that strong performance back in 2021. In fact, it's been upended by Nigel Farage. The red wall, the blue wall, is now a turquoise wall. You've got Nigel Farage in charge of councils in Nottinghamshire, Kent, Lancashire, Derbyshire, Durham, Staffordshire, Lincolnshire. The figures now are huge. 586 seats gained by Reform UK. The biggest loser on these local elections has been the Tory party, down nearly the same amount, 583. Labour down 161. What surprised everybody is the way Labour's been targeted in a similar way to the Tory party. We thought this weekend, Michelle, would all be about how will the Reform and the Tories get together to fight this very strong Labour party. Instead, the support's come to Reform from both the Tories and the Labour Party, and that's why we're seeing the biggest challenge, I think, to the duopoly, these two parties who have run our politics for the past century since the SDP came in the early 1980s. It's extraordinary and surprising, and it started with the Runcorn and Helsley by-election at 6 a.m. today. A recount gave the Reform UK Party a win by just 6 votes. That's the biggest, the smallest, the narrowest win since 1945. A huge surprise. I knew it'd be tight, but not that tight, and I think that was a big moment for Reform UK. Their big problem has been they have no idea where people live. They lack the local data that the Tory party and Labour held on to and ensure that they could control really how power moved around in this country. But Reform UK have broken through that, and now we have Nigel Farage saying he wants to bring in DEI experts, Doge experts to try and take out wasteful spending in councils, and they have two mayoralties too, of course. Don't forget those two. Greater Lincolnshire with Andrea Lensom, and also just now in Hull and East Yorkshire. A huge moment in politics. Fascinating to hear what Jeff Hoon might say about it. Someone who's been in the Labour movement for so many years. A real challenge, not just the Tory party, but also Labour, and in fact the way we think about politics in this country. Historic.
Let me ask you this, because I've seen a lot of conversations about projected national vote share. So I know it's a little bit like saying if my auntie had wheels, she'd be a bus. She hasn't got wheels, she isn't a bus, and there's not a general election tomorrow. But notwithstanding that, when you look at some of these projections, that if there were to be a general election literally tomorrow, and we saw the same trend extrapolate out, what I'm reading says that actually we'd see Reform with a stonking majority. Is that your view?
That's a view held by Martin Baxter of Electoral Calculus. A majority of over 200 were that to be read across. Now, Sir John Curtis, who is the nearest person we have to a kind of mystic Meg in terms of polling, he thinks that Reform are on a projected vote share of 30 points, Labour on 20 points, Tories on 15 points, half where the Tory party, where the Reform UK party is. They're not quite where they need to be to get that scale that is forecast based on the Runcorn and Helsley by-election, a flash in the pan, a by-election, and as anyone knows, these by-elections can mean that they're all done voted for all sorts of reasons, very rarely transferring equally across the UK. But no question, if they get towards 35% vote share, then you could see the scale you're describing, and that's what Zia Youssef told us earlier. They know very well that normally our two-party system, first past the post system, mitigates against small parties, but there's a point at which it flips, and that's when you get these huge majorities, which you saw from Labour in July last year, and that could happen to Reform UK if they get near 35%. Right now, projected by John Curtis to be 30%, and that's a heck of a start. This party was nowhere 12 months ago. It was barely there 10 months ago, and it's a huge shock and a moment in British politics I haven't seen for many, many years.
Fascinating stuff. Thank you for that update and insight there, political editor Christopher. But I tell you what, he's put a shift in as Christopher. He looks as fresh as a daisy as well. You wouldn't think it. I'll have whatever he is having, actually. Look, gents, as we wind through this programme, we're going to be looking at different reactions, whether it's from the Prime Minister, Kemi Badenoch, Ed Davey, Nigel Farage. We'll come to all of that. But for now, before we get into the weeds of all the detail, just give me your top-line thoughts, Jeff Hoon.
Well, it wasn't a great night for Labour, nobody can pretend otherwise. But on the other hand, the British electorate traditionally punish governments at local election time, and that's what happened. There was a protest vote. What I think is really interesting and significant is that the protest vote went to Reform rather than to the Conservative Party. And I think that if we're looking at this in the long term, we may well have seen yesterday the transformation of the party that was the opposition to the opposition now becoming the opposition.
But you surely don't think, I mean, you know, because RunCon, of course, that's just one aspect to it, and don't worry, everyone, we're going to get into all of the aspects, but you surely don't just think nothing to see here, it was just a little bit, people were a bit upset in RunCon, that's the way things go. I mean, that's not your key takeaway from, I mean, you've been absolutely battered.
I'm not saying that at all, and indeed, it might well be the case, and we don't yet know, that yesterday proves to be one of those key changes in electoral politics that occur not just once in a generation, once in several generations as far as the political system in this country is concerned. In the past, the Liberals were replaced by Labour. We might well be seeing on the right of British politics Reform replacing the Conservative Party as the opposition to Labour. Now, I don't believe that's such a bad thing for Labour. And the reason is this. For a long time now, people have complained to me that they do not see any real difference between the two main parties. They've been confused at general elections as Labour has adopted some Conservative policies and the Conservatives have adopted Labour policy. And that has caused a lot of confusion amongst the electorate. If, and we don't know yet, but if Reform has replaced the Conservatives as the party of the right, there will be clear distinctions between the two main parties. If Reform replaces the Conservative Party, it will be absolutely clear to the electorate what they are voting for when it comes to a general election. Top-line thoughts from you, Matt Goodwin?
So I think Nigel Farage has had an incredible night. I think what he's essentially done is inherited the post-Brexit realignment, which has been going on for 10 years. I think many voters turned to UKIP. They wanted immigration control. They wanted to leave the EU. They then turned to Brexit. They wanted immigration reduced. Westminster didn't listen. They turned to Boris Johnson. They said, please lower immigration. He didn't listen. Now they're turning to Nigel Farage and they're saying, listen, bring immigration down, control the borders, prioritise British people. But that's also why I don't think this is just a protest vote, because a protest vote implies people are reacting irrationally against the system. But the millions of people who are lining up to vote Reform know exactly what they're voting for. It's just that Westminster doesn't want to give it to them. They want net migration dramatically reduced. They want the small boats to stop coming. They don't want to see the British state pushing British people aside in the housing market to give housing to illegal migrants who break our laws. And they want a politics that represents them. And the numbers, actually, Michelle, I think are bigger than even people today are realising. I actually agree with Jeff in the sense that this is as big as the emergence of the Labour Party in the early 20th century. It's bigger than the rise of the SDP in the 80s, because the numbers that Farage and Reform are hitting, 30% of the national equivalent vote, these are enormous numbers. He only needs 32% for a majority at the next general election. That's the kind of big number that Reform insiders will tell you that they're aiming for. And what's going to change between now and 29? The economy's flatlining, immigration's out of control, the small boat numbers are rocketing. All the fundamentals are there for Farage.
One of the messages that I'm hearing you tell me loud and clear, lots of you are getting in touch to tell me that you did vote reform, and you're messaging me saying, please tell people to stop saying it was a protest vote. It wasn't, says Andrew, like, please. And that, Andrew, that sentiment you just messaged me, that is coming through thick and fast from a number of people. We're going to get into the details, but let me tell you, something that I thought was quite an interesting choice. We'll come on to Starmer's response as we move through the programme, but today, so you've had this huge political day, this huge election that many people were speculating on what was going to be the outcome. Keir Starmer today, his first big speech then after said election, he wasn't at a school, he wasn't at one of the border points, he wasn't, I don't know, hospitals, wherever he could have been to tap into the concerns domestically that people have. No, he was at some kind of defence contractor building speaking about Ukraine. Listen.
Look at the situation in Ukraine. And I was in Ukraine, the last time I was there was about 6-7 weeks ago now, and I was really struck by the change over the 3 years of the conflict in the way in which the conflict is being fought, and the fact that drones, semi-autonomous and autonomous capability.
Fascinating, and of course a key issue for many people. But I always found it quite interesting when leaders, when they're faced with a sticky wicket domestically, the first thing that they do is run away and start focusing on domestic issues. I might have just been a little bit harsh. Give me your thoughts. We'll have Starmer's reaction though to the outcome of the election in a couple of minutes, as well as Kemi Badenoch, and we'll get into the detail of what on earth has just happened.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
A monumental breakthrough. Scientists have revealed that they've found strong evidence of alien life. Just 124 light years away.
Which is quite far, isn't it? Astronomers from Cambridge University have detected signs of molecules that do indicate life, so we may not be alone after all.
Well, joining us now to explain what on earth this exciting story is, the astronomer and broadcaster Mark Thompson joins us. Mark, just how important is this discovery?
Well, it's incredibly important. For so many years now, we've been looking for some signs that we're not alone in the universe. The universe is a massive place. It's often been said that there's more stars in the universe than there are grains of sand on Earth. So, it's a big place. And to think that we're the only intelligent species in the entire cosmos is difficult to understand. And the discovery that's just been announced is that there's something called dimethyl sulfide, which is an element made of hydrogen, carbon and sulfur, which at the moment we think the only possible way that could be there is through some form of primitive living organisms.
So this is because it's a very complicated gas to sort of combine together. There's no way there could be some sort of volcano churning this stuff out. It has to be some sort of biological life form as the most likely explanation.
Yeah, absolutely. There are other elements, but this particular element, dimethyl sulfide, at the moment, the only process we know of that can produce it is life. Now, of course, we're still in early stages of this discovery, and we still need to do a lot of work to see if there's any other processes we can identify that can produce it. But for now, the only thing we know of is life, and so the only explanation, therefore, is that it's life. But it is still early days.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, welcome back to Jubes and Co. With me, Michelle Dewberry, Matt Goodwin and Jeff Hoon alongside me. Ian, one of my viewers, says, Michelle, the real tragedy of yesterday's elections is that the people of the country sent a very clear message to Labour and Keir Starmer that they are not happy with the way that he's running the country and the way it's going. Ian, take a listen to this then from Keir Starmer.
The results are disappointing, and I could stand here and say to you, opposition parties always do well in by-elections like this. It was very close in Runcorn, etc., etc. But what I want to say is my response is we get it. We were elected in last year to bring about change. That's what people desperately want. We started that work. The NHS waiting lists are down. Wages are up more than prices. Interest rates are down. But the message from these results, I think, is go further, go faster. That chimes with what I want to do.
So there you go, Ian. Keir Starmer completely disagrees with you. He actually thinks that what he needs to be doing is more, further and faster. Diane Abbott, I mean, there's so many Labour MPs that are responding to this. Diane Abbott says that the Labour leadership saying that going further and faster in the same direction means that they don't understand the issue. It's our current direction. That is the problem. Ian, you are aligned with Diane Abbott. Ian Bryan as well, of course, Labour MP, says that this is a tone-deaf response from Labour spokesperson. We must listen to and heed the message that Labour have, that voters have delivered. He goes on to urge the Labour leadership to reflect and change course. There's so many of those kind of messages I could have read out. You get the picture. Many MPs seem to not be happy, seem to think actually Keir Starmer isn't understanding the mood music of the nation. Is he, Jeff?
I don't accept that. The reality is that the Prime Minister was talking about the commitments that he's made to economic growth and to changing the country. No one imagined after the chaos that Labour inherited last year that this was going to be resolved overnight. It was going to take years to get the economy to grow again. And actually going to a defence establishment makes perfect sense. It's wholly consistent with the strategy that the government have adopted. It is to ensure that there is money available to spend on defence. When I was Defence Secretary, one of the benefits of spending money in the UK on defence industries was that not only were you helping the British military, you were also helping the British economy by providing skilled jobs for skilled workers in the United Kingdom. So perfectly consistent with what he has been saying throughout and what he said to the electorate before last year's general election. It is important to get the economy going, to achieve growth so that there is money available for improving education, improving the health service. We've already seen recently some improvements in the reduction of waiting lists in the National Health Service. So there are benefits beginning to flow from the strategy that's been adopted. And what's absolutely crucial, and what he was referring to, is that they stick with the strategy.
I think Keir Starmer's right. He is going further and faster. He is pushing the number of small boats to levels we've never seen before. They're up almost 50% on the same time last year, over 80% on the same point in 2023. He's going further and faster and putting new taxes on businesses, national insurance tax rises, breaking Labour's manifesto commitments, going further and faster and taking winter fuel payments away from pensioners, smashing family farms up and down the country, refusing to give people a national inquiry on the rape gang. 75% of people in this country want to see that. Labour MPs refusing to give those girls the truth and justice they deserve. I just think Keir Starmer looks hopelessly adrift from the rest of the country. And it's not just me, Michelle. The polling on Keir Starmer, his net rating, he's basically minus 40. That's where Meghan Markle is in the net favourability ratings of the royal family. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. Keir Starmer doesn't understand the mood of the country. He's making a lot of the issues that are driving people into reform, he's making worse. And what Labour MPs, lastly, have failed to realise is they're painting reform today as the radical extreme option, right? They haven't understood mass uncontrolled immigration is the extreme policy. That's the extreme policy. And people in this country have had enough of it.
They certainly have. You guys get in touch with me on a daily basis. I can feel the fury that comes through each night at 6 o'clock when we are sharing this moment together. Is he the right man for the job, Keir Starmer?
Absolutely. After the chaos of previous Conservative prime ministers, it was absolutely necessary that the British people wanted someone who's calm, steady, wasn't going to react to every event in a dramatic or emotional way. And that's the right way of governing the country. There's a huge difference between opposition, principled opposition as it may be, and being in government. And what he demonstrates is the stability, the calmness that's necessary to take these difficult decisions in government.
Sorry, Jeff, sorry. Do you think people out there feel that the country is stable and calm? Because most people I speak to out there in the country are desperately concerned about the decline of Britain, about a country they no longer recognise, borders out of control, a state that recently is using taxpayers' money to make housing available for people who break our laws, a Labour government which, to be frank, doesn't seem like it's on the side of hard-working, law-abiding British people.
Well, I recognise your analysis and I understand why you're saying that, and I get that from people, there's no doubt. But the solution is to make sure the economy grows, so there's more money available for health and education, more money for keeping people in work, more money to make sure that this country takes its rightful place at the international table.
But the number one reason why voters across the Labour heartlands have just gone with Reform and Nigel Farage is immigration. It is things like the small boats. Labour does not have a credible plan for stopping the boats and fixing the borders. So where is Keir Starmer today saying, instead of just saying, I get it, how about leave the ECHR, provide an active deterrent, stop giving welfare to people who are breaking our laws, stop making housing available, moving to offshore processing.
It's exactly that kind of extremism that the British people reject. It is an extreme view.
Jeff, controlling borders is not extremism.
Leaving the ECHR would put us in the same boat as
Canada,
Russia,
Australia.
No, on the contrary. It would put us in a position of extreme reaction to the rule of law. And that's not something that any government has ever contemplated in the past. And the reality is that we need to ensure that we have not only a democratic society, but one that observes the rule of law. And if you go back to your point about boats, everyone feels strongly about the boats. Everyone wants to see controlled immigration. But the reality is that you have to do that with a strong economy.
Jeff, I'm sorry.
That is much more important.
I'm not going to take...
You were telling me about what people think.
I'm not going to take lectures about the rule of law.
I'm not giving you a lecture.
When we have a Labour government that is willingly allowing 158,000 people into our country whose first act on entering our country is to break our laws, and then giving them homes and welfare, and you sit there giving me a lecture about the rule of law.
I'm not giving you a lecture about the rule of law. I'm telling you that we are a country that prizes democracy, prizes freedom of speech, but also has always observed the rule of law. And that is why it is important. It's not the case that the British people regard the boats coming in as the most important issue, as you're suggesting.
Immigration is the second top issue in this country.
What they regard as the most important issue is economic security, making sure that this country has a strong economy, that there are jobs for people, that there's training and education, a decent health service. Those are the things that matter to the British...
Jeff, I'm sorry, with all due respect, people out there are not just talking about the economy. They are talking about the hundreds of thousands of people coming into our country who are breaking our laws.
What I said
what you should do,
that is more important.
What I think you are symbolising is why the Labour movement is so out of touch with the country. Unless you fix the borders, it's not extremist to actually say the first thing a nation-state should do is control who comes in and out of that nation-state.
It's extremist to leave the European Convention on Human Rights.
No, it isn't.
That is an extreme
Everybody
point of view.
across Europe
Vladimir Putin.
Oh, here we go.
That's the position.
Right. So
the two countries that have left the ECHR are Belarus and Russia.
And lots of other countries around the world are not in the ECHR.
But they're in similar organisations with similar commitment to the rule of law.
Look, it is not... I'll tell you what's extreme. What's extreme is allowing criminals and terrorists, like the Syrian terrorists, who broke our laws, came over on a small boat, and was allowed to remain in the country because he appealed to the ECHR. And so the courts are putting foreign criminals ahead of British people.
What's the alternative?
I've told you.
Some sort of populist decision by people like you.
Populist decision.
Well, that's what you're saying.
I'm going to give you my alternative. Do you want to hear my alternative? Here's an alternative. We leave the European Convention on Human Rights. We reform the Human Rights Act. We have offshore processing, and we make it clear that we're going to put the British people ahead of foreign criminals and illegal migrants. If you put that before the British people, the vast majority of them will say, yes, actually, I want to live in a secure country. And if you continue to avoid this issue, here's what's going to happen. You won't just be looking at Runcorn and Helsby. Nigel Farage and Reform will take every seat in Labour's Red Wall. They will run through Wales next year, and you and I will be sat here, and you'll be saying, what about the economy? And I'll be saying, immigration matters. People want control.
Well, coming back to these election results, one of the interesting consequences, and it's consistent with what you're saying, is that Nigel Farage and Reform now have to run a number of councils. They've made certain promises, certain commitments about what they will do. They've never run anything in the past. Now they can be judged on their success or failure in running those councils. And we'll see. And it will give the electorate the opportunity of seeing whether the kind of extremist policies you're describing are actually successful.
See, I've got to say, many people listening to what you're saying, Jeff, so you're supporting economic stability and economic growth. Many people will be shouting at their tellies. Please, can you ask him, Michelle, do you think that we are more or less likely to achieve economic stability by spending millions of pounds? I think the latest estimate is £8 million a day, putting people up in hotels. Whether or not we are more or less likely to achieve a better health service when we keep increasing the demand by uncontrolled immigration, because it seems that what you want to achieve, which is noble, you don't seem to be taking into account the impact on your desire by the concern that Matt's raising, which is uncontrolled immigration.
I totally agree with you, by the way, about hotels. No one wants to see people paid for by the taxpayer living in hotels.
Yeah, but we are seeing that.
There's a reason for them being in hotels. The reason is that the Conservative government stopped hearing immigration cases. And the result was those people had to go somewhere before their case was determined.
Sorry, that's just not true, Jeff.
It is true.
The Labour government overturned the Rwanda plan and then overturned the illegal migration act.
Sorry, the Rwanda plan, let's be clear, the Rwanda plan had nothing to do with people in hotels. The Rwanda plan was supposed to deter people. The only people it deterred were two people who volunteered to go to Rwanda.
Labour never even bothered to wait to see if it made a difference.
On the issue. We raised the issue of hotels. You then talk about Rwanda. Well, the people were already here. I don't want British taxpayers having to pay for people to stay in hotels. But the way we resolve that is by making sure those cases are determined quickly and accurately.
And let's just be clear by what you mean by that. So we won't fix the borders, so more people will come over and we'll have to put them up in hotels.
We'll fix the borders.
OK, sure, but you've not explained how. So let's just say...
The government has a very clear policy.
Sorry, can I just finish? Here's what the Labour government is doing. People out there need to know this. You say we'll deal with the asylum claims. What you're doing, the Labour government is accepting 2/3 of people who apply for asylum. You might as well put a big neon sign on the White Cliffs of Dover saying, come on in, and we'll give you a free house.
Don't get carried away by your own rhetoric.
That's what's happening.
It is not the Labour government. It is the legal system. It is judges. It's the rule of law.
No, that's why he wants to
You want to overturn the rule of law.
Sure.
Do you want sort of local dictators taking these decisions? Is that what you want?
Jeff, listen to yourself. Come on. I want to uphold the rule of law for the law-abiding, hard-working, tax-paying majority of people in this country who are sick of having their laws flouted by illegal migrants and foreign criminals.
Well, what do you think? There you go. Robust debate. That's what we like on Jubes and Co. You can join that conversation as well in 2.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
An unsettled spell across southwestern parts of Europe, bringing heavy rain and thunderstorms, but elsewhere plenty of warm sunshine, and it should be largely dry across the Canary Islands, Madeira, but as we head towards Portugal, Spain, southwestern parts of France, very unsettled with heavy showers and thundery outbreaks. But across Rome, the Adriatic coastline, much of Greece, it should be largely dry and plenty of sunshine. Now we could see some heavy showers move into northern parts of Rome on Sunday, but otherwise largely dry and temperatures in the low 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Welcome to your Friday evening weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's a bank holiday weekend, and you know what? The weather looks pretty good. OK, it's going to be a lot cooler than it has been, but many places will be dry thanks to this chunky area of high pressure. That high, though, is moving, and that's what's switching the wind direction. That's why things are turning quite a bit cooler. Still quite a warm evening across the south. See one or two heavy showers there tending to fade away. Most places across England and Wales will be dry. Some showers coming into northern Scotland and a few outbreaks of rain trickling into the north of Northern Ireland later in the night. As I said, still quite warm and temperatures may hold up in double figures across the south, but it is going to be turning cooler as we go through the weekend thanks to a northerly wind. Some mist and low cloud just lapping the coast of southern England, may drift around into East Anglia and the southeast of England into the morning, so it might be a bit murky here, but a good part of England and Wales having a fine start. It will be quite cloudy for Northern Ireland with some light outbreaks of rain trickling south and more showers coming in across northern Scotland. They will tend to fade, I think, as we go through the day, and with some shelter from that northerly wind. Actually, a pretty good looking day through the central belt of Scotland, feeling pretty pleasant here. Now, there is the small chance of seeing these heavy showers drift up across the channel to affect southernmost counties of England for a time through the day today. They could be heavy if you do catch one, but the vast majority won't see them. I think they'll mostly stay to the south and it'll stay dry and bright. But it will be cooler, quite a bit cooler. We could still get up over 20 degrees across the southeast, but many places in the mid-teens, and as I say, quite a shock to the system compared to what we've been used to this week. Cooler still on Sunday as that northerly wind brings down fresher air everywhere. A few showers in eastern areas, but many western and central parts will be dry and bright. But instead of seeing temperatures in the mid or even high 20s, we'll be struggling into the teens and feeling quite a bit colder on those North Sea coasts. Enjoy your weekend.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Jubes and Co. With me, Michelle Dewberry. I've got Matt Goodwin alongside me, and I've got Jeff, whom we're having spirited, robust debate. That's what we like. We live, of course, in a democracy. All views welcome on Jubes and Co. And I want your thoughts coming in. There's lots of people. Glynis, you're saying, what I don't understand, Michelle, is if so many people think Keir Starmer is the right man, why are they getting such disastrous results? You just heard Jeff saying earlier on, Glynis, give it time. Just give it a little bit more time. Does that wash with you? Let's carry on this conversation about the elections in a couple of minutes, but also other things happening today as well. Prince Harry, some quite extraordinary things happening. Let's cross live to our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. Hello, Cameron. What have we missed?
Well, Michelle, I've never seen Prince Harry look so defeated and deflated as he did this afternoon. This is following him losing his appeal to try and get his taxpayer-funded security reinstated to what it was before he stood back as a working member of the royal family. And he's done this interview with the BBC, where he talks about the fact that his security is now discussed on a case-by-case basis as being irrelevant, because although he's no longer a working member of the royal family, he's still 5th in line to the throne legally, and his children are still 6th and 7th. He says he can't bring Meghan and his children to the UK because he feels he can't keep them safe. He talks about an Al-Qaeda threat against him. But what's the most extraordinary thing about this interview, Michelle, is he's calling on the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary to intervene and review the Home Office committee, which decides the level of protection that he gets. So that is the King's son asking the King's government ministers to intervene in his security issues, which is just absolutely extraordinary. He also says that he wants to reconcile with the royal family, but concedes that some members of the family are not going to forgive him following the publication of his bombshell memoir, Spare. He says the King will not speak to him because of this security issue. But also, of course, we know the King still has cancer, still has a weekly cycle of cancer treatment. And Prince Harry says, and I quote, I do not know how much longer my father has. Well, we have approached both the Home Office and Buckingham Palace for comment, and of course we'll keep you updated. The only option really for Prince Harry now is to hope that the Prime Minister or Home Secretary does something, or of course he can take his case to the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court.
Interesting stuff. Cameron Walker, thank you very much for that. Prince Harry, if you're sitting watching Jubes and Co, I've got a little bit of advice for you. I'll give it to you for free. If you want to have a good relationship with your family, it doesn't matter the royalness or whatever, if you want a good relationship with your family, here's a little tidbit of advice. Perhaps don't go on huge high-profile media suggesting that basically they're racist. That might be like a little bit of an idea if you want to have a good relationship with them. Very briefly, on this notion that the Prime Minister might have nothing better to do than intervene to try and get Prince Harry security. Where are you on that, Jeff?
I don't think that's going to happen, and I think it was a terrible mistake. Whoever advised Prince Harry to take legal proceedings on a matter that is essentially at the discretion of a committee, frankly, didn't make sense. He might have been better spending his money on private security when he wanted to come to the UK.
Who's this? Muriel, you've got in touch. Ruth, actually, you're saying, please can you tell Harry for me, he's a whining child and he is entitled. The sooner he's basically banished from royalty, the better. Lots of you getting in touch about this. I've got to say, it has got a lot of you talking. Muriel says he's getting his just desserts and him and Meghan need to do a very, very public apology. A lot of you, I've got to say, are actually quite offended by the behaviour of Prince Harry. A lot of you love the royal family and don't like to see all of this kind of falling out. But look, whatever you think about the royals, ultimately, when any family breaks down, when any family relationship breaks down, it is, of course, very sad. Of course, especially when one family member is ill. We shall carry on watching that story and update you with any twists and turns as they happen. But look, let's come back to this conversation that we're having. This notion that Labour are out of touch, they don't get the strength of feeling, that it's protests and all the rest of it. This is the sense that I'm getting through from the inbox, Matt Goodwin.
Yeah. Well, I think that's certainly true. I don't think it's only Labour, by the way. We must remember that the Conservative Party's average share of the vote at these elections collapsed 25 points relative to 2021. So, you know, we are witnessing the death of the Tory party as well. Many people are looking at Kemi Badenoch and saying, you know, I'm not hearing the things I want to hear. So it's not just the Labour Party. I think everybody within, let's just say, the establishment that has presided over the policies we've been debating on this show, mass immigration, broken borders, London-centric economy, a two-tier legal system that has basically been actively trying to prioritise minorities over the law-abiding majority, people are rebelling against that, like they are across Europe, like they are across parts of America. And I do think, at a deeper level, this isn't just about a local election, right? This is about a much broader shift that is taking place in Western democracies that is leaving established politics that we knew through much of the 20th century in the rearview mirror, and we have a new politics that's emerging, and reform partly reflect that.
I think Matt's right in terms of the changes that have been occurring over a long period, and in a sense the Brexit vote was symptomatic of that. But, and this is the but, what Matt is talking about, I believe to be a minority of the British people, maybe a substantial, large minority, but the reality is the British people are moderate, reasonable, and sit in the centre ground of British politics, and always have.
But Jeff, okay.
That's where elections are won. They're not won on the extremist far edge that Matt is describing.
Right, we're going to get into this because I want to give you the time to get into it properly, because I think this needs space to be explored. Just give me a quick yes or no. Do you think Reform UK are an extreme party?
Yes.
Do you think they're a far-right party?
Yes.
Right, let's explore in two.
This is Britain's newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewberry, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, Michelle Dewberry, Matt Goodwin, Jeff Hoon. Look, Kemi Badenoch, the Tories, I've got to tell you, they got a massive kicking today. She put a tweet out basically saying that this was always going to be a very difficult set of elections coming off the high of 2021. She basically summarises by saying the renewal of our party has only just begun and I'm determined to win back the trust of the public and the seats we've lost in the years to come. There you go. So that's the Tory perspective. But anyway, look, let's cut to the chase. Before the break, Jeff Hoon basically told us that the party that's swept the nation overperformed the predictions in a wave of turquoise, Reform UK. Jeff Hoon was basically saying they're an extremist, far-right party. Matt Goodwin.
Well, obviously, I strongly disagree with Jeff, and I think that reaction, that interpretation is exactly why parties like Reform and many other democracies have been doing so well, because there is a tendency among the ruling class, the establishment, to deride millions of people who feel concerned about these issues as extremists, and terms like far right have been expanded and widened to such an extent they've become meaningless. Everything I said on this show, let's lower migration, control the borders, have a national inquiry into the rape gangs, all of those things are supported by upwards of 75% of British people in this country.
And by the British government. Now, all those things are part of government policy.
Yes.
Certainly.
When's the dedicated national statutory inquiry into the rape gangs coming?
There is already an inquiry into what's happening.
There are four local inquiries, some of which are being held in areas that didn't have rape gangs. When are you going to stop the boats?
There is a policy for dealing with the gangs who organise illegal migration.
And the numbers are surging. When's net migration going to dramatically come down to below 100,000?
What is happening, as you've made the point, everywhere in Western Europe...
But you see, everything I'm saying, Jeff...
exactly the same problem.
Jeff,
this is not peculiar to the United Kingdom.
But what I'm taking issue with is your reaction, which is the same reaction that led people to say the people that voted for Donald Trump were the deplorables, that the Brexit voters were loons and racists. Do you understand that that reaction is exactly why millions of people are rebelling against the establishment?
I certainly understand that people feel very strongly about the issues you've mentioned.
So are they extremists? Are Reform voters extremists?
I've conceded that.
Are Reform voters extremists?
The people who vote for Reform are not extremists.
But Nigel Farage is an extremist.
But the policies of Reform, which was a question I was asked, are extreme.
Which policy?
Let's drill down.
Well, they are on the far right of the political
spectrum.
spectrum.
Which policy do you think is extreme and far right?
Well, one of the issues we've discussed already this evening is whether or not we should remain members of the European Convention on Human Rights, a document that was negotiated and signed by Winston Churchill.
But do you concede that life has moved on?
In 1951.
Well, OK, the world has changed, I accept that. But the reality is the principles embodied in that document remain relevant to today.
Right, so let me ask you a question. So you're talking about principles, but you also concede that life has moved on since 1951. And if you are beholden to legislation that is harming you, are you just suggesting that we should just blindly stay attached to it just so we can say high five us?
No, absolutely not.
So then you must concede then, surely, the logical...
Again, the Labour government that I was part of passed human rights legislation, something that the great majority of the British people support. And therefore, you cannot pick and choose.
Jeff,
this is
you can
what
have human rights
doing.
legislation.
This is what is happening here. You're picking on bits of things that you don't like and saying, well, we don't like that, therefore we'll throw the whole of the baby out with the bathwater.
Nobody's saying that. No, sorry, Michelle, this is an important point. You can have human rights legislation without giving a complete open door to foreign criminals and illegal migrants.
It doesn't give an open door to foreign criminals.
So all of the cases of people who have broken into the UK illegally, who are using Article 3 of the ECHR to stay in the country, including Pakistani paedophiles, Nigerian paedophiles, Albanian gangsters and cocaine dealers.
This is what you're doing. You're picking on examples in order to prove a general point.
No,
and it doesn't work.
Jeff, these people are literally using the ECHR to stay in our country.
It is not just the ECHR. You could withdraw from the ECHR and we would still be bound by a series of international commitments that Conservative governments have signed up for.
Let me just ask you a very quick question because it's almost out of time. Adam, one of my viewers, has said, please can you ask Jeff, does he not understand that calling Reform far right is going to basically, you're going to galvanise support for far right and you're going to lose Labour votes? Do you get that point, what Adam's saying?
I don't get that, but I said earlier on that...
You don't get it, or you do?
One benefit of having a successful Reform party, which we've seen in the last 24 hours, is that, first of all, we'll see whether they can run anything, but secondly, there will be a clear difference between their policies and the policies of the Labour government.
Well, look, do you know what? Each and every one of you at home have had different perspectives on the outcome of the voting that took place. Of course, we've still got some results to hear. I have a concern though, ladies and gents. I've shared it often with you. I don't believe that people understand the extent and strength of feeling and frustration that many of you have at home, calling people and policies far right and extreme. I'm not actually sure it's very helpful. But anyway, let's carry on the conversation another night. Have a good evening, everyone. See you tomorrow night.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Welcome to your Friday evening weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's a bank holiday weekend, and you know what? The weather looks pretty good. OK, it's going to be a lot cooler than it has been, but many places will be dry thanks to this chunky area of high pressure. That high, though, is moving, and that's what's switching the wind direction. That's why things are turning quite a bit cooler. Still quite a warm evening across the south. See one or two heavy showers there tending to fade away. Most places across England and Wales will be dry. Some showers coming into northern Scotland and a few outbreaks of rain trickling into the north of Northern Ireland later in the night. As I said, it's still quite warm and temperatures may hold up in double figures across the south, but it is going to be turning cooler as we go through the weekend thanks to a northerly wind. Some mist and low cloud just lapping the coast of southern England, may drift around into East Anglia and the southeast of England into the morning, so it might be a bit murky here, but a good part of England and Wales having a fine start. It will be quite cloudy for Northern Ireland with some light outbreaks of rain trickling south and more showers coming in across northern Scotland. They will tend to fade, I think, as we go through the day, and with some shelter from that northerly wind. Actually, a pretty good looking day through the central belt of Scotland, feeling pretty pleasant here. Now, there is the small chance of seeing these heavy showers drift up across the channel to affect southernmost counties of England for a time through the day today. They could be heavy if you do catch one, but the vast majority won't see them. I think they'll mostly stay to the south and it'll stay dry and bright. But it will be cooler, quite a bit cooler. We could still get up over 20 degrees across the southeast, but many places in the mid-teens, and I say quite a shock to the system compared to what we've been used to this week. Cooler still on Sunday as that northerly wind brings down fresher air everywhere. A few showers in eastern areas, but many western and central parts will be dry and bright. But instead of seeing temperatures in the mid or even high 20s, we'll be struggling into the teens and feeling quite a bit colder on those North Sea coasts. Enjoy your weekend.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive.
I
mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening at 7 p.m. on Friday, the 2nd of May, and this is a GB News election special with me, Christopher.